Revelation 12:17 says, "And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ." The dragon is the devil, and the woman symbolizes the church. So the prophecy states that the devil would be wroth with the church and would war with the remnant of her seed, those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus, which is the spirit of prophecy. Two phases of persecution against God's true people are represented in Revelation 13 by the two beasts. The first beast comes out of the sea, which is a populated area. This beast is a combination of the world empires before it, as represented by the leopard, bear, and lion, meaning that it comes up after these. It would speak blasphemy and would receive a deadly wound by a sword. The time this beast would rule would be 42 months, or 1,260 years. This is clearly speaking of the Roman Catholic Church, which ruled from 538 to 1798. But now the prophecy speaks of another beast that comes up after the first beast, and it would come up out of the earth, or out of a mostly unpopulated area. In Revelation 12:16 it states that the earth helped the woman. So the church would find refuge from persecution in the earth or in unpopulated areas. This second beast has horns as a lamb but speaks as a dragon. It exercises all the power of the first beast. This begs the question, what power after 1798 came up as a Christian nation and exercises as much power as Rome before it? Only the United States of America. According to the prophecy, this power will make an image to the first beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live. So this power exercises its power in full view of the first beast who didn't die. Verse 16 tells us that this power would cause or force all men to receive a mark, and that no one could buy or sell save he that had the mark. This would escalate to such a degree that there would be a death penalty for those who do not comply. This mark of the beast has gotten a lot of attention. On the internet you can find all kinds of explanations as to what this mark is. Some say Islam or allegiance to a certain political party, some mark or barcode on the forehead or hand. But since this mark is related to the image of the first beast before this second beast, let's ask the first beast what their mark is. Sunday is our mark of authority. The church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. The Catholic Church, by virtue of her divine mission, changed the day from Saturday to Sunday. It is well to remind the Presbyterians, Baptists, Methodists, and all other Christians that the Bible does not support them anywhere in their observance of Sunday. Sunday is an institution of the Roman Catholic Church, and those who observe the day observe a commandment of the Catholic Church. It was the Catholic Church which has transferred this rest to Sunday in remembrance of the resurrection of our Lord. Therefore, the observance of Sunday by the Protestants is a homage they pay, in spite of themselves, to the authority of the Catholic Church. You can see the references after each citation. So there we have it. Sunday is the mark of the beast, the Roman Catholic Church, by its own admission. But what is the image of the beast, and how is it to be formed? The image is made by the two-horned beast and is an image to the first beast. It is also called an image of the beast. Then, to learn what the image is like and how it is to be formed, we must study the characteristics of the beast itself, the papacy. That's from Great Controversy, page 443, paragraph 1. Those who, understanding the claims of the fourth commandment, choose to observe the false instead of the true Sabbath, and thereby paying homage to that power by which alone it is commanded. But in the very act of enforcing a religious duty by secular power, the churches would themselves form an image to the beast, Hence, the enforcement of Sunday keeping in the United States would be an enforcement of the worship of the beast and his image. Now let's ask the next logical question. Is there a movement in the United States to enforce this mark or Sunday worship? Maybe you've heard of Project 2025. This was prepared by the Heritage Foundation as a blueprint that they want the new President of the United States to follow. Whether or not President Trump follows this blueprint is not our concern at the moment. On page 589 of this blueprint, we find proposed Sunday laws. You can pause and read if you wish. The general trend of the leaders of the United States is to bring America back to God, to give power to the states, to bring prayer back to the schools and uphold Christian principles. Are these things bad? No, they're great, but they are promoted by religious people who do not follow the teachings of the Bible. The teachings of religious leaders have opened the door to infidelity, to spiritualism, and to contempt for God's holy law. And upon these leaders rests a fearful responsibility for the iniquity that exists in the Christian world. That's from Great Controversy 586, paragraph 2. Yet this very class put forth the claim that the fast-spreading corruption is largely attributable to the desecration of the so-called Christian Sabbath, and that the enforcement of Sunday observance would greatly improve the morals of society. This claim is especially urged in America, where the doctrine of the true Sabbath has been most widely preached. Here, the temperance work, one of the most prominent and important of moral reforms, is often combined with the Sunday movement, and the advocates of the latter represent themselves as laboring to promote the highest interests of society, and those who refuse to unite with them are denounced as the enemies of temperance and reform. But the fact that a movement to establish error is connected with the work which is in itself good is not an argument in favor of the error. We may disguise poison by mingling it with wholesome food, but we do not change its nature. On the contrary, it is rendered more dangerous, and it is more likely to be taken unawares. It is one of Satan's devices to combine with falsehood just enough truth to give it plausibility. The leaders of the Sunday movement may advocate reforms which the people need, principles which are in harmony with the Bible, yet while there is with these a requirement which is contrary to God's law, his servants cannot unite with them. Nothing can justify them in setting aside the commandments of God for the precepts of men. Great Controversy 587, paragraph 1. Utah Governor Spencer Cox signed a new bill into law on Monday, March 17, 2025, that will allow a group of nearly 24 Nothing Bundt Cake stores in Utah to stay closed on Sundays without facing legal repercussions from their corporate franchisor. We are so grateful for the passing of the Franchisee Protection Act, said Kelly Clayton, the owner of Nothing Bundt Cakes location in St. George and Spanish Fork. The bill not only protects us, but all franchises from unfair practices by big corporations. Most of all, we owe our thanks to the Lord for helping us maintain our right to rest, be with family, and worship Him on His Sabbath day. The problem is, it's not God's Sabbath. Republican Ken Ivory is a lawmaker in Utah and sponsored the new law. He is listed as one of the contributors to Project 2025. Let me be clear, this is not the Sunday law, but we are seeing movements in this direction. We can see that Sunday is the preferred day of rest for Protestants. The Sunday rest movement is gaining momentum. Should people be free to worship God when they please? Yes, absolutely. This should be the right of all religious people, regardless of which day they keep. If it stayed there, it would be fine, but the prophecy states that the government of the United States will compel people to receive this mark of the Roman power, which is Sunday. This is when they will go too far. Sunday will be enforced as a day of worship. There are two problems. The enforcing of a religious law itself is something that the Constitution of the United States is against, but this will change. Secondly, it is a false day of worship that will be enforced as God's Sabbath, even though the Bible has nothing to say about Sunday as the Sabbath. This is a man-made institution. Exodus 28-11 reads, Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and hallowed it. Separation of church and state means that the state will not regulate concerning the first 4 of God's commandments. These should be left to man's own conscience. Christian principles in a government are excellent, but when it comes to worship, who, how, and when we worship, this must be left to the individual. The dignitaries of church and state will unite to bribe, persuade, or compel all classes to honor the Sunday. The lack of divine authority will be supplied by oppressive enactments. Political corruption is destroying love of justice and regard for truth. And even in free America, rulers and legislators, in order to secure public favor, will yield to the popular demand for a law enforcing Sunday observance. Liberty of conscience, which has cost so great a sacrifice, will no longer be respected. In the soon coming conflict, we shall see exemplified the prophet's words, The dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Revelation 12:17. This is from Great Controversy, 592, paragraph 3. Heretofore, those who presented the truths of the third angel's message have often been regarded as mere alarmists. Their predictions that religious intolerance would gain control in the United States, that church and state would unite to persecute those who keep the commandments of God, have been pronounced as groundless and absurd. It has been confidently declared that this land could never become other than what it has been, the defender of religious freedom. But as the question of enforcing Sunday observance is widely agitated, the event so long doubted and disbelieved is seen to be approaching, and the third message will produce an effect which it could not have had before. Great Controversy 605, paragraph 3. There is a warning given in the Bible for those who worship the beast and his image. Revelation 14:9 and 10 tells us, And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb.